Welcome, dear listener. Find yourself a comfortable place to rest and let your body grow soft and heavy. Take a slow, gentle breath, and as you exhale, let the worries of today drift quietly away. Tonight, we are going to travel together, gently, slowly, back through the long corridors of time, to a world buried beneath golden sand and ancient river silt, where secrets have slept for thousands of years, waiting to be found. There is nothing you need to do right now, but simply listen and let the story carry you. Close your eyes if you like, and imagine the warm amber light of an oil lamp flickering softly in a room made of clay and cedar, where the air smells faintly of bitumen and river water, and somewhere in the distance, the great rivers of the ancient world move slowly toward the sea. The year 1964 arrived quietly, as most years do, though it carried within it the seeds of something that would, in time, shake the very foundations of how we understand our most ancient past. Few people recognized this at the time. In the warm, sun-baked landscape of northern Iraq, approximately 110 kilometers north of the great city of Baghdad, a methodical and dedicated scholar named Dr. Benam Souf was guiding his Iraqi excavation team through the carefully layered earth of a Neolithic settlement known as Tel Sawan. Layer by patient layer, his team moved through the sediment of ages, cataloging the ordinary remnants of early human life, the kind of slow, careful work that defines the quiet heroism of archaeology. Each morning the team would arrive as the desert light turned golden and soft, and each evening they would leave having moved perhaps a few centimeters deeper into the past. The earth gave up its secrets reluctantly, one careful brushstroke at a time. Then, quite unexpectedly, the earth gave up something extraordinary. Beneath what had appeared to be a standard administrative complex from the early dynastic period, workers broke through into a sealed chamber that had not seen light or air in thousands of years. Inside that hidden room, resting in a stillness that felt almost sacred, lay more than 400 cuneiform tablets, many of them inscribed in script variants that predated the oldest known Sumerian writing systems by several centuries. What made this discovery even more remarkable was the condition of the tablets themselves. They were pristine. Each one had been deliberately stored inside cedar containers and sealed with bitumen, as though someone, or something, had taken extraordinary care to ensure these records would survive the long sleep of millennia. Imagine the silence of that chamber as the first light in thousands of years fell upon those clay surfaces. The sharp edges of each impression still perfectly preserved, as though the scribe had set down his reed stylus only moments before. Unlike the administrative tablets most commonly found across Mesopotamian sites, the grain tallies, the tax records, the merchant agreements, these were something altogether different. They contained cosmological narratives. They carried genealogical records of divine beings. And perhaps most startling of all, they offered detailed accounts of humanity's earliest interactions with a group of entities the texts referred to consistently as the Anunnaki. The preservation of these tablets was so exceptional that individual cuneiform impressions retained their perfectly sharp edges, suggesting they had been fired at extremely high temperatures using techniques that, according to mainstream archaeology, should not have existed during that period. News of the discovery moved quickly through academic circles, carried on whispered conversations and cautious correspondence. But almost immediately, access to the tablets was restricted. The Iraqi Department of Antiquities, caught between the concerns of domestic religious authorities and the pressures of international archaeological institutions, classified the find as culturally sensitive material requiring extended periods of study, before any broader dissemination. Dr. Suff's preliminary reports to the Baghdad authorities described the tablets as containing narratives of unprecedented historical significance, language that set off quiet alarms within both religious and scholarly establishments. The British Museum entered the story in 1967 when Dr. Edmund Solberger, who at that time served as keeper of Western Asiatic antiquities, negotiated a joint study agreement with Iraqi authorities. Solberger had built his distinguished reputation on meticulous translations of old Babylonian mathematical texts, and he approached the Tel Es-Sawan tablets with the same careful attention he brought to everything. But these tablets were unlike anything his expertise had prepared him for. The script employed cuneiform signs that appeared in no known lexical lists, woven together with standard Sumerian logograms in ways that seemed to defy established grammatical rules, as though two entirely different linguistic worlds had been deliberately braided together. Solberger would spend long evenings in his study, surrounded by reference volumes and photographic reproductions, the lamp burning late into the London night, searching for patterns in a script that seemed to resist every familiar analytical tool. The British Museum's translation team, led by the careful and experienced Dr. Wilfred Lambert, began the painstaking work of identifying recurring terminology and establishing basic linguistic patterns. Lambert noted in his confidential reports, documents that would not be seen by outside eyes for many years, that the tablets referred to the Anunnaki using grammatical constructions that placed these beings in a distinct category, separate from both ordinary humans and the familiar deities of traditional Mesopotamian religion. Even more puzzling were repeated passages that appeared to describe genetic manipulation, combining Sumerian words for clay, blood, and divine essence in configurations that had no equivalence anywhere in the known literary record. The University of Pennsylvania joined the effort in 1969, leveraging its long-established connections with the Iraqi Department of Antiquities through the Joint Expedition to Nippur. Dr. Eka Sjoberg, a specialist in archaic Sumerian, was granted access to photograph-selected tablets for comparative linguistic study. His work revealed something intriguing. The script variants found at Tel Es-Sawan shared certain characteristics with proto-cuneiform systems from Uruk, yet incorporated signs that appeared nowhere in the accepted progression of Mesopotamian writing development, as though they represented a branch of written language that history had somehow overlooked. The signs had a quality unlike ordinary administrative notation. They were deliberate, precise, and strangely consistent across dozens of separate tablets, suggesting not improvised record-keeping, but the transmission of a carefully organized body of knowledge. As the translation process continued, increasingly unsettling patterns began to emerge from the content. The tablets described the Anunnaki as beings who had descended from the heavens and established extensive mining operations to extract gold and other precious metals from the earth. More significantly, and more controversially, they detailed the creation of a worker species through the deliberate genetic modification of existing hominids, employing what the texts appeared to describe as sophisticated biotechnological processes. These accounts included specific references to laboratory facilities, genetic material extraction, and hybrid breeding programs that, according to the tablets, resulted in the emergence of modern human beings. In 1972, a scholar named Dr. Zechariah Sitchin, a Russian-born linguist with deep expertise in ancient Hebrew, Akkadian, and Sumerian, gained access to the tablets through unofficial channels. Where institutional scholars approached the texts with traditional philological caution, Sitchin brought both a background in economic history and an unusual willingness to follow the language wherever it led, even into territory that made his colleagues profoundly uncomfortable. His analysis focused on the technological dimensions described in the tablets, arguing that what mainstream scholars interpreted as descriptions of divine activity were in fact accounts of advanced scientific procedures rendered in the vocabulary available to ancient scribes. Sitchin's translations diverged dramatically from those produced by institutional scholars. Where Lambert and Schoberg read references to divine breath as poetic metaphors for life-giving spiritual power, Sitchin argued the text described procedures recognizable as artificial respiration and genetic engineering. His interpretation of the Sumerian term for primordial waters as a reference to DNA rather than a mythological ocean sparked intense academic debate. He argued that passages describing the mixing of divine and earthly essences contained specific, detailed instructions for combining Anunnaki genetic material with that of primitive hominids. The institutional response was swift and unambiguous. In 1976, the British Museum issued a formal statement distancing itself from what it characterized as speculative translations lacking proper philological foundation. The University of Pennsylvania's Oriental Institute published a critique arguing that Sitchin's methodology ignored fundamental principles of Sumerian grammar. And yet, quietly, away from public view, internal documents from both institutions told a somewhat different story. Memoranda released decades later through Freedom of Information requests revealed significant behind-the-scenes anxiety about the implications of the tablet's contents. A 1975 document from the British Museum's Board of Trustees discussed the potential for public misunderstanding if certain translations were widely circulated. Similar concerns appeared in University of Pennsylvania files, focused on the impact accurate translations might have on established archaeological paradigms. Meanwhile, the Iraqi Department of Antiquities found itself navigating increasingly difficult terrain, caught between foreign institutions demanding continued access and domestic religious authorities concerned about texts that appeared to challenge traditional creation narratives. In 1978, new restrictions were implemented, limiting foreign access and requiring all translations to pass through a review committee of Islamic scholars before publication. The story grew more complex still when excavations at Eridu in 1981 uncovered similar sealed chambers containing tablets with matching script variants and parallel narratives, including additional details about Anunnaki operations, and even descriptions of their home planet's orbital characteristics and the environmental factors that had driven their journey to Earth. Eridu was one of the oldest cities known to human memory, and it seemed fitting that its deepest layers should yield yet another piece of this extraordinary puzzle, as though the ancient world itself was slowly, patiently, revealing what it had long kept hidden. The translation challenges extended well beyond linguistics. The tablets described technologies and procedures for which ancient vocabularies had no established equivalents. Terms for sky chambers, firestones, and genetic templates forced translators to make interpretive choices that inevitably reflected their own assumptions about what ancient peoples could or could not have known. Mainstream scholars consistently selected interpretations that aligned with conventional understanding. Alternative scholars like Sitchin chose readings that acknowledged the apparent technological sophistication of the source material. Dr. Samuel Noah Kramer of the University of Pennsylvania, a man widely regarded as the Dean of Sumerian Studies, acknowledged in private correspondence that the Tel Es-Sawan tablets contained linguistic constructions and technological references that challenged fundamental assumptions about Sumerian civilization. His published work, however, maintained that such passages were mythological metaphors rather than literal descriptions of advanced knowledge. The gap between what eminent scholars said in private and what they committed to print was growing wider. It was a silence shaped not by ignorance, but by something more complex: the careful management of a discovery whose implications felt, to many, simply too large to speak aloud. When computer-assisted analysis became available in the 1980s, digital comparison of the tablet texts with the broader corpus of known Sumerian literature revealed statistical anomalies in vocabulary usage and grammatical structures, suggesting these tablets originated from a different linguistic tradition altogether. Technical terminology related to mining, genetics, and astronomy appeared with a frequency that far exceeded anything found in any other Mesopotamian literary collection. French scholars working at the Louvre with tablets acquired through diplomatic channels eventually produced translations that occupied a careful middle ground, acknowledging the technological sophistication described in the texts without explicitly endorsing ancient astronaut interpretations. Their limited academic publications provided detailed analysis of passages concerning what they termed genetic experiments, noting that the Sumerian terminology employed demonstrated knowledge of biological processes that, by any conventional reckoning, should have been entirely unknown to ancient civilizations. The cataloging process itself became a source of ongoing controversy. The British Museum grouped the tablets with mythological texts. The University of Pennsylvania treated them as historical documents of uncertain provenance. The Iraqi Department of Antiquities maintained separate categories for sensitive cultural materials. This fragmented approach meant that no single institution possessed a complete picture of the tablet's contents, and comprehensive analysis remained perpetually out of reach. The tablets existed, in a sense, in a kind of administrative twilight, real and documented, but divided and dispersed in ways that made their full implications difficult to grasp. Modern digital imaging techniques applied in the 1990s opened yet another layer of this ancient mystery. High-resolution photography uncovered microcuneiform inscriptions that had been entirely invisible to earlier researchers. These microscopic texts, written in a condensed script variant that required specialized software to decode, contained what appeared to be technical specifications and procedural instructions of extraordinary detail, including what the researchers described as step-by-step protocols for genetic modification procedures. The discovery of these hidden texts within texts felt like finding a secret room inside a room that was already secret, layer upon layer of deliberate concealment, as though whoever created these tablets had understood that some knowledge needed to be buried more deeply than the rest. As the story continued to deepen and expand, the microscopic inscriptions revealed through digital imaging provided something that no earlier researcher had managed to assemble: a comprehensive organizational structure for what the tablets consistently refer to as the Anunnaki hierarchy. Unlike the fluid, often contradictory mythological arrangements found in later Mesopotamian literature, these archaic texts presented a rigid administrative system, clearly defined roles, explicit jurisdictions, and precise chains of command that read less like religious mythology and more like military or corporate documentation. There was something almost startlingly modern about the administrative logic preserved in these ancient marks on clay. The Sumerian king list, traditionally interpreted as a record of human rulers with impossibly long reigns, takes on an entirely different dimension when read alongside the Tell-Essaouan tablets' detailed descriptions of Anunnaki leadership positions and the extended lifespans attributed to these beings. What earlier scholars had dismissed as mythological exaggeration begins, in this new light, to look like something else entirely. Those impossibly long reigns, those thousands of years attributed to individual rulers, perhaps they were not exaggerations at all. Perhaps they were records. The primary administrative document, catalogued as Tablet ES-47 by the Iraqi classification system, contains what appears to be a complete roster of Anunnaki leadership positions, written in the archaic script variant predating standard Sumerian writing. The tablet employs a complex numerical designation system indicating rank, function, and operational authority. The highest designation, the number 60, reflecting the Sumerian sexagesimal mathematical system, belongs to Anu, identified consistently throughout the tablets as the supreme commander of the Anunnaki expedition to Earth. The tablets present Anu not as the sky god of later Mesopotamian mythology, but as the chief executive of a complex mining and colonization operation, responsible for strategic decisions regarding resource extraction, population management, and technological deployment. References throughout the corpus place him in administrative contexts involving production quotas, personnel assignments, and conflict resolution between subordinate commanders. His primary residence is referred to using a Sumerian term that later literature translated as heavenly abode, but which the archaic texts employ to designate what appears to be a flying vehicle or orbital platform. High above the ancient landscape, suspended between the stars and the river valleys below, this orbital station would have been visible perhaps as a brilliant point of light moving slowly across the deep Mesopotamian night sky. When the Enuma Elish, the great Babylonian creation epic, is examined alongside the Tel Es-Sarwan tablets, its cosmic battles and divine dramas begin to resemble heavily mythologized accounts of actual administrative conflicts within the Anunnaki hierarchy. The confrontation between Marduk and Tiamat, traditionally understood as a creation myth, corresponds closely in the tablets to a power struggle between younger Anunnaki commanders and the established leadership, resolved through what the text describes as combat of the weapons of brilliance. Enlil, assigned the number 50, and described throughout the tablets as Lord of the Command, served as operational commander of Anunnaki ground activities on Earth. His responsibilities included overseeing mining operations, managing the human workforce, and coordinating between various outposts scattered across the planet. The texts describe his establishment of command centers at locations that correspond to later Mesopotamian cities, with Nippur identified as the primary administrative hub for the entire Earth operation. One can almost feel the weight of that command. The daily movement of resources, the allocation of labor, the endless calculations of productivity and loss, an administrative burden stretching across continents and centuries. The tablet's portrait of Enlil differs markedly from later mythological accounts. Rather than a benevolent ruler, the archaic sources describe him as implementing increasingly harsh labor policies as mining quotas escalated. Tablet ES-156 contains detailed records of human population management, including breeding programs designed to optimize worker productivity and genetic modifications intended to enhance physical capabilities for specific mining tasks. The text employs Sumerian terminology for shaping and forming that later literature applied to pottery, but which in this context clearly describes biological manipulation. Enki, designated with the number 40, held the position of chief scientist and genetic engineer. The tablets identify him consistently as Lord of the Earth, but the context makes clear this refers to his responsibility for terrestrial biological systems. His primary laboratory facility, described in extensive detail across multiple tablets, was located in the region later associated with fresh water in standard mythology, but which the archaic texts identify clearly as a sophisticated scientific research complex. Deep beneath the surface, in chambers kept at precise temperatures and pressures, the work that would eventually produce the first human beings was conducted with quiet, methodical care. Tablet ES203 contains what appears to be a complete procedural manual for creating human Anunnaki hybrids, employing terminology that combines standard Sumerian biological vocabulary with technical terms appearing nowhere else in Mesopotamian literature. The text describes the extraction of genetic material from both Anunnaki donors and primitive hominids, followed by complex mixing procedures requiring specialized equipment referred to as vessels of creation. The resulting organisms were tested for intelligence, physical capability, and reproductive viability before being integrated into the workforce. The term Adamu appears throughout the tablet corpus as the designation for the first successful hybrid, a construction combining elements meaning first blood, and created, indicating its precise technical meaning within the genetic program. The tablets carefully distinguish between Adamu as the prototype and subsequent generations of modified humans, tracking genetic modifications and performance characteristics through numerical designations. This was not myth. Or at least, whatever it was organized with the precision of a laboratory notebook, the patience of a researcher who expected others to follow these instructions long after the original experiment was concluded. Comparative analysis with Hebrew creation accounts reveals striking parallels in both terminology and narrative structure. The Hebrew term Adam clearly derives from the Sumerian Adamu. The biblical concept of humans formed from clay corresponds to tablet descriptions of using earth-based materials as a medium for genetic work. The breath of life in the Genesis account may represent, in this reading, the integration of Anunnaki genetic material into the hybrid organism. What the Bible preserved as spiritual metaphor, the tablets preserved as technical procedure. Two traditions, two vocabularies, one ancient memory, translated differently across the centuries, but pointing toward the same original event. The tablets document multiple failed attempts before a viable human worker was achieved. Early versions suffered from various defects: excessive intelligence that made them difficult to control, insufficient cognitive ability for complex tasks, and problems with physical capability or reproductive function. The systematic approach to solving these problems, as described in the texts, demonstrates sophisticated understanding of genetic engineering principles and what we might today call iterative product development. There is something quietly affecting about reading these accounts. Each failed attempt, each careful adjustment, each generation of beings brought into existence for purposes not their own, in a laboratory deep beneath the ancient Earth. The genetic experiments extended beyond simple hybrid creation to include specialized human variants designed for particular tasks. Individuals with enhanced physical strength for heavy mining work, others with improved manual dexterity for precision tasks, and still others with increased intelligence for supervisory roles. These specialized variants were produced in limited quantities and subjected to modifications that prevented independent reproduction, maintaining Anunnaki control over their populations. The reproductive capabilities of created humans posed ongoing administrative challenges. Early hybrids were sterile, requiring continuous production through genetic engineering. Later modifications introduced limited reproductive ability, but with genetic constraints preventing uncontrolled population expansion. The tablets describe complex breeding programs designed to maintain optimal worker characteristics while preventing the emergence of traits that might threaten administrative control. And yet, as we shall see, those traits emerged anyway. The created surpassed the intentions of their creators, slowly, quietly, inevitably, like a river that eventually finds its way around every stone placed in its path. The laboratory facilities required to support all of this work were substantial. Underground complexes with sophisticated environmental controls, power generation systems, atmospheric management, and waste disposal capabilities. Tunnel systems connected different research areas, allowing secure transport of materials and personnel between different research zones. The scale of these operations suggests not improvised experimentation, but a major, well-resourced industrial complex dedicated to biological research and production. Walking through those tunnels in the mind's eye, one senses the hum of machinery, the cool, recycled air, the quiet purposefulness of beings engaged in work of incomprehensible importance. Quality control procedures for the Human Creation Program involved extensive evaluation of each hybrid before workforce integration, assessing intelligence, physical capabilities, behavioral characteristics, and genetic stability. Humans who failed these assessments were subjected to additional modifications or removed from the program entirely. The systematic nature of these procedures reflects something recognizable as industrial manufacturing principles applied to living beings. The Atrahasis epic, traditionally viewed as a flood narrative, preserves within its mythological framework detailed records of an administrative crisis that led to the decision to reduce human populations. The Telesawan tablets provide the bureaucratic context for those events, describing how rapid human population growth had begun to strain Anunnaki resources and complicate mining operations. Tablet ES-298 records a series of administrative meetings in which Enlil advocated for population reduction, while Enki argued for alternative solutions, including technological upgrades and expanded mining territories. The Divine Council described in these texts bears no resemblance to the democratic assemblies of later Mesopotamian mythology. Instead, the tablets present a military-style command hierarchy with precisely defined reporting relationships and decision-making protocols. The Council of 50, referenced throughout, consisted of senior Anunnaki commanders with specific operational responsibilities. Major policy changes required consensus among council members, but Anu retained veto authority over all significant decisions. The tablets describe numerous instances of council debates extending over multiple sessions, with detailed records of arguments presented, votes tallied, and implementation timelines established. These were not the impulsive decisions of capricious gods. They were the measured, documented deliberations of an administrative body that understood itself to be managing an operation of civilizational scale. Comparative analysis with Egyptian sources reveals surprising parallels. The instructions of Ptahhotep, a Middle Kingdom text traditionally associated with wisdom literature, contains passages that correspond closely to administrative protocols described in the Anunnaki tablets, particularly in its emphasis on hierarchical obedience and proper reporting procedures. This correspondence suggests that Anunnaki administrative systems may have influenced governmental structures across multiple ancient civilizations, with regional adaptations reflecting local conditions and cultural preferences. The echo of that original organizational logic persisted for thousands of years, encoded in the practical wisdom of human administrators who may have had no idea where their traditions ultimately originated. Ninhursag, identified in the tablets with the numerical designation 45, held responsibility for biological systems maintenance and human population health, encompassing both the medical care of human workers and the ongoing genetic modifications required to maintain workforce productivity. Her facilities, as described in the texts, included medical laboratories, genetic storage systems, and breeding management centers staffed by specialized technicians trained in biological manipulation techniques and medical procedures that far exceeded anything available to human civilizations for millennia afterward. The tablets describe her with a quality of meticulous care. A figure who understood the biological system she managed with an intimacy that went beyond mere technical knowledge, who kept detailed records of every generation and every modification, building across centuries a library of living data. The technological infrastructure supporting this entire administrative apparatus required constant maintenance and periodic upgrades. A separate technical hierarchy oversaw equipment maintenance, communication systems, and transportation networks. These specialists, identified using Sumerian terms translating roughly as craftsmen of the divine tools, possessed knowledge of advanced manufacturing, energy systems, and material science that enabled the Anunnaki to maintain their considerable technological advantage over human populations. As the administrative burden of managing human societies grew more complex, the tablets describe the establishment of human intermediary positions, trained administrators who formed a buffer between direct Anunnaki oversight and ordinary human populations. These human administrators, granted limited authority over local communities, form what the tablets identify as the foundation for the priest-king systems that would characterize early Mesopotamian civilization for millennia to come. This was the moment when human history, as we conventionally understand it, truly began. Not with a sudden awakening, but with a careful, deliberate delegation of responsibility from one kind of being to another. This transition from direct to indirect governance coincided with the development of creation narratives that served as both historical records and operational manuals for the genetic engineering programs that produced modern humanity. The most detailed account of human creation, preserved in the Tell Es-Sawon collection, appears in the text known as Enki and Ninmah. Unlike the simplified creation stories found in later Mesopotamian literature, this archaic version provides careful, sequential descriptions of the biological processes employed to create the first human workers. The narrative begins with a crisis. The original workforce of lower-ranking Anunnaki had begun to revolt against the harsh conditions of the gold extraction operations. The uprising is described in military terminology, indicating that it posed a serious threat to the entire Earth mission. Enki's solution involved the genetic modification of existing hominid species native to Earth. The tablets employ the Sumerian term Lulu to describe these primitive beings, using grammatical constructions that emphasize their animal-like qualities and limited cognitive capacities. Enki collected genetic samples from these creatures, storing the material in containers described using terminology combining words for vessel, life, and essence. The preservation techniques required maintaining specific temperatures and atmospheric conditions, suggesting laboratory equipment far beyond anything available to ancient civilizations. One thinks of the care with which these ancient biological materials must have been gathered and stored, the precision of the collection, the controlled conditions of the containers, the awareness that what was being preserved was nothing less than the raw material of a new species. The creation process required combining hominid genetic material with Anunnaki DNA, extracted from volunteer donors within the expedition. The extraction procedure is described using terms that later Mesopotamian literature applied to ritual sacrifice, but which in the archaic texts clearly indicate a medical procedure involving the removal of specific biological components. Anunnaki donors underwent preparatory treatments to optimize their genetic contribution, including dietary modifications and exposure to what the texts describe as purifying radiations. Ninmah's role in this process involved the actual genetic manipulation procedures, the complex engineering required to produce viable human Anunnaki hybrids. Her laboratory, described in considerable detail, contained equipment for genetic analysis, biological manipulation, and embryonic development. The text employs Sumerian terminology for shaping and molding that later literature associated with pottery making. But the technical context makes clear these terms refer to biological modification procedures. There is a strange tenderness in some of these passages, a quality of craftsmanship, almost of artistry, as though the creation of a new being was understood to be not merely a technical act, but something that deserved care and attention beyond what simple efficiency required. The Atrahasis epic provides additional details that illuminate the administrative context behind the flood decision. The text describes the flood as a deliberate population reduction measure implemented by Enlil to address resource allocation problems within the Anunnaki colonial operation, following extensive bureaucratic deliberation in which Enki advocated for alternative solutions, including territorial expansion and agricultural upgrades. Comparative analysis between the Mesopotamian and biblical flood accounts reveals systematic editing in the Hebrew version. Technological details removed, basic narrative structure preserved. The biblical account transforms a technical manual for survival vessel construction into a moral narrative about divine judgment and human righteousness. What the Mesopotamian texts presented as an administrative decision becomes, in the biblical telling, a story of sin and salvation. The same event, preserved in two traditions separated by centuries and geography, reveals itself as a palimpsest. Newer meanings written over older ones, the original technical text still faintly visible beneath the theological overlay, if one knows how to look. The Epic of Gilgamesh provides the most detailed Mesopotamian flood narrative, containing elements that correspond precisely to the biblical account of Noah, while preserving technical details absent from the Hebrew version. Tablet 11 of the Standard Version describes Utnapishtim receiving construction specifications for his survival vessel using terminology that suggests advanced engineering knowledge. The dimensions provided, 120 cubits in length, width, and height, describe a cube-shaped structure optimized for stability rather than navigation, indicating design principles based on practical maritime engineering rather than divine improvisation. The construction materials specified include bitumen waterproofing, reinforced timber framework, and compartmentalized internal structure, a design that mirrors modern shipbuilding techniques. The application of bitumen in multiple layers, with specific instructions for sealing joints and creating watertight barriers between compartments, describes a level of technical sophistication that exceeds the shipbuilding knowledge conventionally attributed to ancient Mesopotamian civilization. Both accounts describe the preservation of animal species through sophisticated biological management protocols, suggesting advanced understanding of genetic diversity and reproductive biology. The Mesopotamian version provides specific instructions for maintaining breeding populations, including protocols for food storage, waste management, and environmental control within the vessel. Compartments designed to maintain optimal conditions for different species, with ventilation systems, temperature controls, and feeding schedules that reflect genuine scientific knowledge of animal husbandry. The vessel was not simply a boat. It was, in essence, a floating laboratory, a mobile ark of biological information designed to preserve the genetic heritage of an entire planet through a catastrophic reset. Geological evidence from Mesopotamian archaeological sites confirms massive flooding events during the early dynastic period corresponding to the time frame suggested in the ancient texts. core samples from the Persian Gulf region reveal sedimentary layers indicating catastrophic flooding that extended far inland from current coastlines, supporting the scale of inundation described across multiple ancient traditions. The earth itself remembers the flood, carrying the evidence in its layers as surely as the clay tablets carry it in their inscriptions. The Book of Enoch presents a detailed account of the Watchers tradition that parallels Mesopotamian descriptions of Anunnaki interactions with human populations. The Watchers, a group of 200 divine beings who descended to Earth during the time of Jared, established settlements on Mount Hermon, and began systematic interaction with human women. The text provides specific names and specializations for individual Watchers, creating a roster that corresponds closely to the administrative hierarchy described in the Tell-us-So-On tablets. Samyaza, identified as the leader of the Watchers, corresponds in both administrative function and operational authority to the Mesopotamian Enlil. The Book of Enoch describes Samyaza organizing the descent to Earth and establishing protocols for Watcher-human interaction using terminology that emphasizes military command structure. Azazel, described as teaching humans metallurgy, weapon manufacturing, and cosmetic arts, corresponds to Enki in his role as technology transfer specialist. The specific technologies attributed to Azazel, metalworking, jewelry crafting, and chemical preparation, match the industrial capabilities that the Mesopotamian texts associate with Enki's educational programs. The Watchers' interactions with human women resulted in the birth of the Nephilim, described in Genesis 6 as the offspring of divine beings and human daughters. The Hebrew term Nephilim derives from a root meaning to fall, though the context suggests this refers to their divine parentage rather than moral corruption. The physical characteristics attributed to the Nephilim across various ancient sources consistently describe beings of extraordinary size and strength. The Book of Numbers describes them as giants who made the Israelite spies feel like grasshoppers by comparison, while the Book of Enoch provides specific measurements indicating heights exceeding 10 feet. The technological knowledge possessed by the Nephilim included advanced metallurgy, astronomical observation, and mathematical calculation that far exceeded the capabilities of contemporary human civilizations. The Book of Enoch describes Nephilim teaching humans the secrets of heaven and earth, calendar systems, weather prediction, and navigation techniques, corresponding to the sudden appearance of sophisticated astronomical knowledge in early Mesopotamian civilization. These hybrid beings moved through the ancient world as living bridges between two orders of existence, carrying in their bodies the genetic inheritance of the stars, and in their minds the knowledge of both realms. The Mesopotamian concept of divine human offspring appears throughout Sumerian literature in the form of demigod rulers with exceptional longevity and supernatural capabilities. Gilgamesh himself represents the archetypal divine-human hybrid. Described as 2/3 divine and 1/3 human, his exceptional strength, extended lifespan, and access to divine knowledge corresponding to the characteristics attributed to Nephilim in Hebrew sources. His search for immortality in the epic reflects awareness of his partial human nature, suggesting that divine human hybrids possessed enhanced but not unlimited lifespans. The tragedy of Gilgamesh is the tragedy of being caught between two worlds, belonging fully to neither, yearning for the permanence of the divine, while anchored to the mortality of the human. Islamic tradition preserves additional details about the Watchers and their offspring in accounts of the jinn and their interactions with human populations. The Quran describes jinn as beings created from smokeless fire who possessed advanced technological capabilities. Islamic accounts provide specific details about jinn genetic experiments with humans, resulting in hybrid offspring with exceptional abilities but limited lifespans compared to their jinn parents. The shared motifs between Mesopotamian, Hebrew, and Islamic traditions regarding fallen angels and forbidden knowledge suggest common source material preserving technical information about genetic engineering and technology transfer programs. All three traditions describe divine beings teaching humans advanced sciences: astronomy, metallurgy, medicine, and mathematics. The consistency of these accounts across different cultural contexts indicates preservation of factual information rather than independent development of similar mythological themes. Three rivers flowing from one ancient spring, each taking a different course through the centuries, each carrying the same water. The punishment of the Watchers described in Enoch corresponds to administrative disciplinary actions detailed in the Mesopotamian tablets. The confinement of rebellious divine beings in underground facilities using terminology that suggests imprisonment rather than spiritual punishment. The angelic hierarchy described in biblical and apocryphal sources mirrors the administrative structure detailed in the Anunnaki tablets, with different orders possessing specific functions and authority levels derived directly from Mesopotamian administrative vocabulary. The Tower of Babel narrative provides another example of shared source material between biblical and Mesopotamian traditions. The tablets describe incidents where human populations developed technologies that threatened Anunnaki security, leading to deliberate disruption through technological sabotage and population dispersal. The linguistic confusion of the Babel account corresponds to administrative policies described in the tablets for managing human populations through communication barriers. The deliberate introduction of linguistic diversity as a population control measure, preventing large-scale coordination that might challenge Anunnaki authority. What the Bible describes as divine confusion was, in the tablet accounts, a calculated administrative intervention, the fragmentation of human unity through the most fundamental of all barriers, the inability to speak and be understood. The Sumerian descriptions of divine vehicles present some of the most compelling evidence for advanced transportation technology in ancient texts. The term for flying vehicle appears consistently throughout the tablet corpus, using grammatical constructions that emphasize mechanical rather than supernatural operation. Tablet ES-341 provides detailed technical specifications for Enlil's primary transport, described as generating tremendous noise and atmospheric disturbance during operation, employing specific Sumerian terminology for roaring, flashing, and shaking the earth that corresponds to modern descriptions of rocket propulsion systems. Ancient scribes, lacking the vocabulary of modern physics, reached for the most vivid language available to them: storm winds, pillars of fire, voices of thunder, to capture the sensory reality of technologies they witnessed but could not fully name. The construction materials for these vehicles included metals and alloys, requiring sophisticated metallurgical knowledge to produce. The manufacturing processes described required high-temperature furnaces, precision metalworking tools, and quality control procedures that exceeded anything available to ancient human civilizations. The systematic approach to vehicle production indicates industrial manufacturing capabilities rather than individual craftsmanship. Enlil's Chariot of the Storm receives particularly detailed description across multiple tablet sources, with technical specifications revealing sophisticated understanding of aerodynamics and propulsion. The vehicle is described as generating controlled atmospheric disturbances, enabling rapid movement through air and space. The operational procedures requiring specialized training and safety protocols to protect operators from intense heat and radiation during flight. The training programs described in the tablets were rigorous and extended. Years of theoretical instruction, followed by carefully supervised practical experience, with multiple levels of certification before an operator was trusted with independent flight. The boat of heaven operated by Anu represents a different category of vehicle, designed for long-distance space travel rather than atmospheric flight. The tablets describe this vessel as capable of traveling between Earth and the Anunnaki homeworld using propulsion systems that generated no atmospheric disturbance but required extensive preparation time before departure. Technical specifications include multiple compartments for crew and cargo, life support systems for extended voyages, and navigation equipment capable of precise interplanetary positioning. Somewhere in the deep space beyond the reach of ancient eyes, that homeworld turned in its orbit around its own sun, and the tablets record its characteristics with the matter-of-fact precision of people who had made the journey and knew the way. The docking facilities required to service these vehicles necessitated sophisticated ground support infrastructure. The tablets describe the construction of landing platforms with specialized surface materials capable of withstanding the heat and force generated during vehicle operations. These facilities included fuel storage systems, maintenance workshops, and communication centers that coordinated vehicle movements between different operational sites. The scale of these installations suggests major construction projects that required significant resources and technical expertise. The navigation systems employed by Anunnaki vehicles utilized astronomical positioning techniques demonstrating advanced understanding of celestial mechanics, star charts, planetary position calculations, and orbital trajectory planning requiring mathematical capabilities far exceeding those attributed to ancient civilizations. The communication systems integrated into these vehicles enabled real-time coordination over vast distances through what the tablets describe as words that travel through the sky and messages of light. Technical terminology suggesting understanding of electromagnetic radiation and signal processing. The astronomical knowledge demonstrated in the tablets includes precise calculations of planetary orbits, stellar positions, and celestial mechanics. The Mesopotamian mathematical system, based on sexagesimal notation, provided the computational framework, but the level of precision achieved suggests access to advanced observational instruments and calculation methods. The tablets contain astronomical tables accurately predicting planetary positions, eclipse cycles, and seasonal variations with precision that matches modern astronomical calculations. These were not rough approximations or mythological guesses. They were working instruments, tools of navigation and planning used by beings who needed to know exactly where things were in the sky at any given moment. The mathematical techniques employed include advanced algebraic methods, geometric principles, and trigonometric relationships not formally developed by human mathematicians until the medieval period. The metallurgical knowledge preserved in the tablets includes detailed descriptions of alloy production, heat treatment processes, and quality control procedures producing metals with specific properties optimized for particular applications, including substances described as harder than iron and lighter than copper, using terminology suggesting understanding of metallurgical principles not developed by human civilizations until the modern era. The mining operations described in the tablets employed techniques maximizing extraction efficiency while minimizing environmental damage. Hydraulic systems for ore processing, chemical treatments for metal separation, and waste management procedures preventing contamination of water supplies. The scale of these operations required coordinated efforts involving thousands of workers, sophisticated logistical systems, and consistent production standards maintained across vast distances. Reading these passages, one is struck by the sheer organizational intelligence required to manage such an enterprise. The supply chains, the personnel records, the production targets, the quality controls. All of it preserved in clay, all of it pointing toward a level of administrative sophistication that should not, by conventional reckoning, have existed. The forbidden arts referenced throughout Mesopotamian literature encompass specific categories of knowledge that Anunnaki administrators identified as particularly threatening to operational security. Divination techniques represented one of the most restricted categories, providing humans with methods for obtaining information about future events and hidden activities that could compromise Anunnaki strategic planning. The tablets describe divination as involving access to communication networks and information systems that connected terrestrial operations with off-world command structures. What human priests and seers experienced as mystical communion with divine forces may have been, at its technological root, something far more concrete: the partial, intuitive reception of signals from communication systems whose full operation they could not understand. The metallurgical knowledge classified as forbidden involved techniques for producing alloys and materials with properties exceeding those of conventional metals available to human civilizations. The tablets describe the production of metals that shine like the sun and substances harder than stone using processes requiring extreme temperatures, specialized atmospheric conditions, and rare materials difficult for humans to obtain independently. The strategic implications of these advanced materials included their applications in weapon production, construction projects, and manufacturing processes, providing significant military and economic advantages. Writing systems represented another category of forbidden knowledge due to their potential for preserving and transmitting technical information beyond Anunnaki administrative control. The development of human writing capabilities enabled the creation of permanent records, preserving advanced knowledge across generations, coordinating complex activities across large populations, and facilitating the development of independent educational systems. The tablets describe specific concerns about human writing systems that could accurately record technical procedures, mathematical calculations, and scientific observations. Knowledge, once written down, becomes in some sense immortal. And immortal knowledge in human hands was precisely what the Anunnaki administrators feared most. The cuneiform writing system itself emerged from Anunnaki administrative requirements for record-keeping and communication, but its adoption by human populations created opportunities for unauthorized information preservation and transmission. The tablets describe efforts to control human access to writing through the establishment of scribal schools operating under direct Anunnaki supervision, the development of simplified writing systems limiting expression of complex technical concepts, and the implementation of security protocols restricting access to advanced literacy training. Literacy was not simply a skill in this context. It was a form of power, carefully rationed, strategically limited, given with one hand and partially withheld with the other. Serpent symbolism throughout Mesopotamian mythology consistently associates snake imagery with wisdom, knowledge transmission, and access to divine secrets normally restricted from human populations. The tablets employ specific Sumerian terminology for different types of serpents, corresponding to various categories of knowledge and levels of divine authority required for their transmission. The Serpent of Wisdom appears in contexts involving the sharing of technical knowledge, while the Serpent of the Depths relates to hidden information about geological and astronomical phenomena. The serpent became, in the symbolic language of these ancient cultures, a kind of living metaphor for knowledge itself. Coiled, patient, potentially dangerous, offering something transformative to those willing to reach for it. The Mesopotamian serpent deities, including Ningish-Zida and Tishpak, represented specialized aspects of knowledge transmission that connected terrestrial human populations with divine sources of advanced information. These deities served as intermediaries who filtered and controlled the flow of sensitive knowledge, ensuring that human recipients received information appropriate to their capabilities and loyalty status. The serpent symbolism emphasized the transformative nature of advanced knowledge, which could elevate human capabilities while potentially threatening existing social and political structures. The Garden of Eden narrative, when examined through the lens of Mesopotamian source material, reveals sophisticated parallels with tablet descriptions of controlled environments where humans received limited access to advanced knowledge under carefully monitored conditions. The biblical serpent's role in encouraging knowledge acquisition corresponds to tablet descriptions of unauthorized information sharing that violated established security protocols. The consequences described in Genesis mirror the administrative responses detailed in Mesopotamian sources. Humans who gained unauthorized access to advanced knowledge faced expulsion from controlled environments and restriction of their access to divine resources. The garden was not simply a paradise. It was a managed enclosure, a facility where newly created beings were introduced gradually to a carefully selected portion of reality, and where the boundary between permitted and forbidden knowledge was enforced with quiet, persistent vigilance. The tree of knowledge symbolism appears throughout Mesopotamian literature as a metaphor for information systems providing access to divine databases containing technical, historical, and strategic information. The tablets describe these systems using terminology combining words for growth, branching, and fruit-bearing in technical contexts, suggesting sophisticated information storage and retrieval networks. The restriction of human access to these systems represented a fundamental security measure designed to prevent unauthorized acquisition of knowledge that might threaten administrative control. The fruit of knowledge, sweet, illuminating, dangerous, hung just within reach, and the prohibition against taking it was less a moral injunction than an operational security measure. The genetic knowledge embedded within serpent symbolism relates to the role of advanced biological understanding in human development and enhancement programs. The tablets describe serpent-associated deities as possessing specialized knowledge of genetic manipulation, biological modification, and reproductive control, enabling the creation and management of human populations with specific characteristics. The serpent's association with healing and medicine reflects the medical applications of this biological knowledge, while its connection to transformation emphasizes the genetic modification capabilities that could alter human physical and mental characteristics. The astronomical knowledge transmitted through serpent-associated traditions included understanding of celestial mechanics, planetary movements, and cosmic cycles, enabling accurate calendar systems, navigation techniques, and prediction of astronomical events. The tablets describe the development of human astronomical capabilities through carefully controlled educational programs, providing sufficient knowledge to support agricultural and navigational needs, while withholding information about interplanetary travel and communication systems that might enable human populations to establish independent contact with off-world civilizations. The stars were shared. The paths between them were not. The medical knowledge associated with serpent symbolism encompassed understanding of biological systems, disease processes, and therapeutic interventions, enabling humans to maintain health and extend lifespans beyond normal parameters. The tablets describe the transmission of medical knowledge through mystery school traditions, combining practical healing techniques with theoretical understanding of biological principles. The serpent's association with both healing and poison reflected the dual nature of advanced medical knowledge, which could enhance human capabilities while potentially providing tools for biological warfare or population control. The architectural knowledge embedded within serpent traditions involved understanding of construction techniques, material science, and engineering principles, enabling the creation of monumental structures and sophisticated urban planning systems. The tablets describe the transmission of architectural knowledge through guild systems maintaining strict control over access to advanced construction techniques, while ensuring the preservation of essential skills across generations. The great temples and ziggurats of Mesopotamia were not simply religious monuments. They were, in part, demonstrations of this transmitted knowledge, proof that the human intermediaries had received and mastered what they had been given, built in stone and brick to endure long after the original teachers had departed. This theoretical framework finds its most compelling validation in the physical archaeological record, where anomalous artifacts and construction techniques continue to challenge conventional understanding of ancient technological capabilities. The Baghdad Battery, discovered in 1936 by German archaeologist Wilhelm König at Qujut Rabua near Baghdad, represents one of the most controversial electrochemical devices recovered from ancient Mesopotamia. The artifact consists of a clay jar containing a copper cylinder surrounding an iron rod, with bitumen serving as an insulator at the top opening. When filled with an acidic solution, such as vinegar or wine, the device generates approximately 1.1 volts of electrical current, demonstrating functional galvanic cell operation that predates the official invention of the battery by more than 2 millennia. It sits in museum collections, modest, clay-colored, unremarkable in appearance. And yet it carries within it the quiet implication that electricity was understood and harnessed in the ancient world. Perhaps not universally, perhaps not openly, but somewhere and by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The construction techniques evident in the Baghdad Battery reveal sophisticated understanding of electrochemical principles, including the selection of specific metals, creating optimal voltage differential, and the use of insulating materials preventing short circuits. Multiple similar devices have been recovered from archaeological contexts across Mesopotamia, suggesting systematic production rather than isolated experimentation. The Seleucia excavations conducted by the University of Michigan between 1927 and 1937 uncovered 14 additional galvanic cells with identical construction principles but varying dimensions and metal compositions. The standardization evident in these devices indicates manufacturing protocols that specified precise material requirements, assembly procedures, and quality control measures. The copper cylinders show evidence of machine-like precision in their fabrication, with uniform wool thickness and smooth interior surfaces exceeding the capabilities typically attributed to ancient metalworking. Metallurgical analysis of the iron components reveals carbon concentrations indicating deliberate steel production using techniques that should not have been available during the period when the devices are conventionally dated. The practical applications for these electrochemical devices remain subjects of intense scholarly debate, with proposed uses ranging from electroplating precious metals to medical therapy and religious ceremonies. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that arrays of Baghdad batteries could generate sufficient electrical current for gold plating applications, producing results comparable to modern electroplating techniques. The electrical output characteristics match the requirements for several metallurgical processes evident in Mesopotamian jewelry and decorative arts, including the production of gold-plated objects with uniform coating thickness and exceptional durability. Advanced metallurgical finds from Mesopotamian archaeological sites include alloys and metalworking techniques exceeding conventional expectations for ancient technological capabilities. The Sumerian metalwork collection, housed at the British Museum, contains examples of bronze alloys with tin concentrations exceeding 20%, producing materials with hardness and corrosion resistance approaching modern specifications. The production of these high tin bronzes required smelting temperatures exceeding 1,200 degrees Celsius and precise atmospheric control to prevent oxidation and contamination during the alloying process. The excavations conducted by Leonard Woolley between 1922 and 1934 uncovered evidence of advanced smelting facilities, multi-chamber furnaces, sophisticated bellows systems, and temperature control mechanisms enabling precise metallurgical operations. The furnace designs incorporated heat recovery systems, capturing and redirecting exhaust gases to preheat incoming air, improving fuel efficiency and achieving higher operating temperatures. The metalworking tools recovered from these sites demonstrate manufacturing capabilities, including precision measurement instruments, quality control devices, and specialized forming equipment, enabling the production of complex mechanical assemblies. Bronze calipers with accuracy tolerances within 0.1 millimeters appear in workshop contexts, alongside measuring devices employing standardized units and mathematical relationships for calculating material requirements and dimensional specifications. The forming tools include dies, mandrels, and shaping devices producing standardized components with interchangeable characteristics, indicating understanding of manufacturing principles that would not be formally developed until the Industrial Revolution. When one holds even a photograph of these ancient instruments and contemplates the precision they embody, the comfortable assumption that ancient peoples were simply less capable than we are begins to quietly dissolve. The gold techniques evident in Mesopotamian artifacts include sophisticated purification processes, alloying procedures, and forming methods producing jewelry and decorative objects with exceptional quality and durability. The electrum alloys found in Sumerian gold demonstrate controlled mixing of gold and silver in precise ratios optimizing specific properties, including color, hardness, and workability. The granulation techniques employed involve the production and attachment of microscopic gold spheres to create decorative patterns requiring precise temperature control and timing. The granules themselves demonstrate remarkable uniformity in size and shape, suggesting production methods that controlled cooling rates and atmospheric conditions to achieve consistent results. Sumerian cylinder seals represent one of the most sophisticated miniature art forms developed by ancient civilizations, incorporating complex iconographic programs, preserving detailed information about technological capabilities, astronomical knowledge, and administrative systems. The seal cutting techniques employed required precision tools and magnification systems enabling the production of details measuring less than 1 millimeter in width. The hard stone materials used, carnelian, lapis lazuli, hematite, required diamond-tipped cutting tools and controlled pressure applications to achieve the precision evident in finished seals. Each seal was a world in miniature, a complete cosmology compressed into an object small enough to hold in the palm of a hand, rolled across wet clay to leave its impression like a whisper of the ancient world on the surface of the present. The iconographic content of cylinder seals includes depictions of advanced technologies challenging conventional interpretations of ancient capabilities. Seal impressions from the Akkadian period show detailed representations of mechanical devices, including gear systems, lever mechanisms, and complex assemblies suggesting familiarity with sophisticated engineering principles. The astronomical scenes depicted include accurate representations of planetary relationships, stellar configurations, and celestial mechanics demonstrating observational capabilities and mathematical knowledge exceeding conventional expectations. The megalithic structures of ancient Mesopotamia demonstrate construction techniques and engineering capabilities that exceed conventional expectations for Bronze Age civilizations. Incorporating massive stone blocks, precision fitting, and sophisticated architectural principles requiring advanced planning and execution. The ziggurats of Babylon and other Mesopotamian cities employed construction techniques that moved and positioned stone blocks weighing several tons with precision approaching modern construction standards. The foundation systems for these structures include complex drainage networks, load distribution systems, and seismic resistance features demonstrating sophisticated understanding of soil mechanics and structural engineering. The Göbekli Tepe complex in southeastern Turkey, while geographically outside Mesopotamia proper, demonstrates construction techniques and artistic sophistication predating conventional expectations for monumental architecture by several millennia. The site's massive T-shaped pillars, some weighing over 15 tons, were quarried, carved, transported, and erected using techniques requiring sophisticated planning, specialized tools, and coordinated labor forces. The artistic reliefs carved into these pillars include detailed representations of animals, geometric patterns, and symbolic systems demonstrating advanced artistic capabilities and complex iconographic programs. The precision evident in Göbekli Tepe's construction includes perfectly circular enclosures, precisely positioned pillars, and complex architectural relationships requiring advanced surveying techniques and mathematical calculations. The site demonstrates understanding of astronomical alignments, geometric principles, and architectural proportions, indicating access to sophisticated design knowledge. The quarrying techniques employed include controlled fracturing methods, separating massive blocks from bedrock without damage to finished surfaces or dimensional accuracy. And then, perhaps most mysteriously of all, the site was deliberately buried. Someone, at some point, made the decision to cover all of this with earth, to hide it beneath the ground, as though returning a secret to the place where secrets are kept. It slept there for 10,000 years before we found it again. The Antikythera mechanism, recovered from a Greek shipwreck dating to the 1st century BC, represents legitimate evidence of advanced ancient technological capabilities challenging conventional understanding of classical civilization achievements. The device's complex gear systems, precision bronze casting, and sophisticated astronomical calculation capabilities demonstrate mechanical engineering knowledge rivaling modern clockwork mechanisms. Its ability to predict eclipses, planetary positions, and Olympic game schedules demonstrates integration of multiple knowledge systems, astronomy, mathematics, and cultural chronology, achieved through precision manufacturing techniques enabling the production of functional mechanical computers using Bronze Age materials and tools. It was found corroded and fragmented, barely recognizable as anything at all, and it took decades of careful analysis before researchers understood what they were looking at. How many other such mechanisms have been lost entirely? Dissolved by salt water, melted down for their metal, forgotten in the basements of museums that did not know what they had. The debate surrounding ancient advanced civilizations must balance recognition of genuine technological achievements with critical evaluation of extraordinary claims that lack sufficient supporting evidence. The archaeological record provides substantial evidence for sophisticated ancient capabilities in metallurgy, construction, astronomy, and mechanical engineering that exceeded previous scholarly expectations. However, claims of ancient nuclear weapons, aircraft, or extraterrestrial technology require extraordinary evidence that meets rigorous scientific standards and archaeological verification procedures. The methodological approaches for evaluating anomalous artifacts include comprehensive archaeological context documentation, multiple dating techniques, materials analysis, and technological assessment. The interdisciplinary nature of these investigations requires collaboration between archaeologists, material scientists, engineers, and other specialists. The scientific method demands that extraordinary claims receive extraordinary scrutiny, while remaining open to evidence that challenges conventional understanding. Yet beneath this veneer of scientific objectivity lies a complex web of institutional politics, religious sensitivities, and academic gatekeeping that has systematically suppressed or marginalized research into the more controversial aspects of Sumerian civilization and its implications for human origins. The initial suppression of the Tel Es-Sawan tablets began almost immediately after their 1964 discovery, when the Iraqi Department of Antiquities classified the find under emergency cultural protection protocols, severely limiting access. Dr. Souf's preliminary reports described the tablets as containing narratives fundamentally challenging established chronologies of human development, language that immediately triggered concern among both religious and academic institutions. The Catholic Church, through its extensive network of archaeological missions in the Middle East, exerted considerable pressure on Iraqi authorities to restrict access to materials that might contradict biblical creation narratives. The Vatican's Pontifical Biblical Commission, established in 1902 to oversee archaeological research related to biblical studies, maintained extensive files on Mesopotamian discoveries posing potential challenges to Catholic doctrine. Internal documents obtained through Italian government transparency laws reveal that the Commission closely monitored developments at Tel Es-Sawan and coordinated with other Christian denominations to ensure potentially problematic translations received limited circulation. The machinery of institutional self-protection moved quietly, thoroughly, and with the patience that only very large and very old organizations possess. The Protestant establishment, particularly through the American Schools of Oriental Research and the Oriental Institute at the University of Chicago, adopted similar approaches. Dr. William Foxwell Albright, widely regarded as the father of biblical archaeology, established interpretive frameworks that consistently favored mythological over-literal readings of ancient texts describing advanced technologies or unusual divine activities. His methodological approach, which dominated Near Eastern archaeology for decades, emphasized understanding ancient texts within their proper cultural context, effectively discouraging interpretations suggesting technological sophistication beyond conventional expectations. The British Museum's handling of the tablets reflected broader institutional concerns about maintaining public confidence in established historical narratives, while avoiding controversy affecting government funding or donor support. Internal memoranda from the 1970s reveal extensive discussions about the public relations implications of certain tablet translations and the need to present findings in ways that supported rather than challenged conventional understanding of human development. The museum's board expressed particular concern about translations suggesting genetic engineering or advanced technology in ancient times, viewing such interpretations as potentially damaging to institutional scientific credibility. Behind the magnificent public face of scholarship, the polished galleries, the careful catalogues, the reassuring authority of plaques and display cases, These quieter conversations were taking place, shaping what the public would and would not be allowed to understand. The academic peer review process became a primary mechanism for suppressing research, challenging conventional interpretations. Scholarly journals developed informal but effective screening procedures, filtering out papers, proposing unconventional readings of cuneiform texts regardless of their philological accuracy or methodological rigor. The case of Dr. Michael Heiser illustrates these academic challenges. His doctoral dissertation at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, examining divine council traditions in ancient Near Eastern literature, faced significant resistance from committee members, and the final version required substantial revisions, eliminating many of his more controversial conclusions. Zecharia Sitchin's emergence as a prominent alternative interpreter in the 1970s triggered unprecedented coordinated responses from mainstream institutions. Despite Sitchin's credentials and rigorous philological methodology, his translations faced immediate and sustained criticism. Critics consistently characterized his interpretations as speculative and unscholarly, while avoiding detailed engagement with his cuneiform translations or linguistic evidence, a strategic approach designed to discredit his work without directly confronting his methodology. The dismissals were confident and consistent, but they shared a peculiar quality. They tended to attack the conclusions rather than the evidence, the interpreter rather than the interpretation. The treatment of Erich von Däniken's ancient astronaut theories reflected broader concerns about maintaining the boundary between scholarly research and popular speculation. His Chariots of the Gods, published in 1968, introduced millions of readers to the possibility that ancient texts described extraterrestrial visitation and technological intervention in human development. The book's massive popular success triggered alarm within archaeological and historical institutions. The Archaeological Institute of America organized lecture series and published materials specifically designed to counter von Däniken's influence, emphasizing professional expertise and institutional authority, while failing to address many of the legitimate questions he raised about anomalous artifacts and technological descriptions in ancient literature. The suppression of archaeological findings contradicting established chronologies or suggesting advanced ancient capabilities involved complex networks of institutional cooperation between museums, universities, and government agencies. The Smithsonian Institution's handling of giant skeleton discoveries in North America during the late 19th and early 20th centuries exemplifies these mechanisms. Numerous newspaper accounts from that period describe the discovery of human remains of unusual size at various archaeological sites, with many specimens reportedly sent to the Smithsonian for analysis. Yet, institutional records show no evidence of these specimens in current collections, and official statements consistently deny the existence of any anomalous human remains in Smithsonian holdings. The absence of evidence is not the same as evidence of absence. But when the absence is systematic, when it follows a pattern, it begins to tell its own story. The role of funding sources in shaping archaeological research priorities creates subtle but effective mechanisms for directing scholarly attention away from potentially controversial topics. Major funding organizations consistently favor research proposals aligning with established academic paradigms, while avoiding projects that might challenge conventional understanding of human development. This funding bias effectively shapes the direction of archaeological research by making it financially difficult for scholars to pursue alternative interpretations. The peer review process serves as a crucial gatekeeping mechanism, filtering out research challenging established interpretations. Journal editors and reviewers trained within conventional academic frameworks and dependent on institutional support, face strong incentives to reject unconventional papers, regardless of their methodological rigor or evidentiary support. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle where challenging research cannot gain publication in respected venues, which then justifies its exclusion from serious academic consideration. The international coordination of suppression efforts involves formal and informal networks of communication between academic institutions, government agencies, and religious organizations across national boundaries. International scholarly organizations and UNESCO's archaeological programs provide frameworks for coordinating responses to potentially controversial discoveries and ensuring consistent interpretation of archaeological evidence across different national contexts. These international networks enable rapid dissemination of preferred interpretations and coordinated responses to alternative research that might challenge established historical narratives. The digital revolution has fundamentally altered the landscape of archaeological research and publication by providing new mechanisms for accessing primary sources, conducting independent analysis, and disseminating alternative interpretations without institutional gatekeeping. High-resolution digital imaging of cuneiform tablets, online databases of archaeological findings, and collaborative translation projects enable independent researchers to conduct sophisticated analysis of ancient texts and artifacts without requiring institutional affiliation or approval. These technological developments have democratized access to archaeological evidence while creating new challenges for institutions seeking to maintain control over the interpretation of ancient materials. The Internet did to the gatekeeping of knowledge what the flood did to the cities of the plain. It spread everywhere, reached everything, and could not be called back. The legal battles surrounding access to archaeological materials and research findings reveal the extent to which institutional and government authorities will go to maintain control over potentially controversial evidence. Freedom of Information Act requests, court challenges to classification decisions, and international legal disputes over artifact ownership create ongoing conflicts between researchers seeking access to evidence and institutions determined to maintain control over sensitive materials. These legal conflicts often involve substantial financial resources and extend over many years, effectively discouraging all but the most determined researchers from pursuing controversial topics. The psychological and social mechanisms that maintain academic orthodoxy include career incentives, peer pressure, and institutional loyalty that discourage scholars from pursuing research that might challenge established interpretations or jeopardize their professional standing. The academic tenure system, while designed to protect intellectual freedom, often creates conformity pressure during the crucial early career period when scholars must demonstrate alignment with institutional expectations to achieve job security. This system effectively filters out researchers who might pursue controversial topics while rewarding those who maintain conventional approaches to ancient evidence and interpretation. The cumulative effect of these suppression mechanisms has created a systematic bias in archaeological and historical research that favors conventional interpretations, while marginalizing evidence that might support alternative understanding of ancient civilizations. This bias operates through multiple reinforcing mechanisms, making it extremely difficult for unconventional research to gain serious academic consideration, regardless of its methodological rigor or evidentiary support. The result may be a distorted understanding of ancient capabilities and achievements that significantly underestimates the technological sophistication and historical complexity of early human civilizations. We are, in some sense, reading our own past through a lens that was carefully ground to show us only what certain institutions decided we should see. When we step back and allow the full weight of this evidence to settle. The tablets, the archaeological anomalies, the genetic questions, the cross-cultural parallels. A very different picture of human origins begins to take shape, one that challenges fundamental assumptions about our species' development, purpose, and place within a larger cosmic context. The genetic engineering narrative preserved in the Sumerian tablets offers a coherent explanation for several anomalies in the conventional evolutionary model. The sudden appearance of anatomically modern humans approximately 200,000 years ago, with brain capacities and cognitive abilities far exceeding environmental pressures, suggests intervention rather than gradual natural selection. The tablets describe the Anunnaki genetic modification program as specifically designed to create workers with enhanced intelligence, physical capabilities, and longevity compared to existing hominids, while maintaining genetic constraints, ensuring dependence on their creators. The archaeological evidence for sudden technological advancement during the Neolithic Revolution supports the tablet accounts of knowledge transfer. The simultaneous development of agriculture, metallurgy, astronomy, and urban planning across multiple geographic regions between 10,000 and 8,000 BC suggests coordinated educational programs rather than independent innovation. The speed and comprehensiveness of these developments exceed what conventional models predict for gradual cultural evolution, driven by environmental pressures alone. Across hundreds of kilometers and multiple separate populations, the same fundamental technologies appeared within the same relatively brief window of time, as though a signal had been given, and those who heard it began simultaneously to build. Modern genetic researchers have identified the fusion of human chromosome 2 as containing markers suggesting deliberate manipulation rather than natural evolutionary processes. The fusion site includes telomeric sequences that should not exist in the middle of a chromosome, indicating the artificial joining of genetic material from different sources. These findings remain contested within mainstream genetics, but they add another thread to an already complex tapestry. Each thread, taken alone, can be dismissed. Woven together, they begin to form a pattern too coherent to be entirely accidental. The implications of artificial human origins extend beyond simple questions of biological development to encompass fundamental issues of human purpose and destiny. The tablets consistently describe humans as created for specific functions within the Anunnaki colonial operation, with genetic modifications designed to optimize performance in mining, construction, and agricultural activities. However, the texts also indicate that human genetic potential exceeded original design parameters, leading to the development of capabilities that surprised and sometimes concerned their creators. The emergence of human creativity, spiritual awareness, and technological innovation suggests that the genetic modification process introduced unintended consequences that enabled humans to transcend their original limitations. What was designed as a tool developed a soul. The consciousness implications of artificial origins challenge materialist assumptions about human awareness. The tablets describe the integration of Anunnaki genetic material as introducing not only enhanced physical capabilities, but also expanded consciousness connecting humans to broader cosmic awareness, enabling perception of realities beyond immediate sensory experience, access to information through non-physical channels, and the development of spiritual traditions maintaining connection with divine origins. The mystery school traditions of ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, and other civilizations maintained practical techniques for consciousness expansion, and what the tablets describe as genetic activation representing direct continuation of original Anunnaki educational programs. These traditions recognized humans as hybrid beings with both terrestrial and cosmic heritage, capable of transcending physical limitations through proper understanding of their genetic potential. The initiates who passed through these ancient schools understood themselves to be recovering something that had been taken from them, or more precisely, something that had been installed in them from the beginning and then deliberately obscured. The suppression of human genetic potential appears throughout historical accounts as deliberate policies implemented by various control systems to maintain population management and prevent the emergence of capabilities that might threaten established power structures. The tablets describe specific genetic modifications designed to limit human lifespans, reduce psychic abilities, and create dependency relationships, ensuring continued control by administrative hierarchies. These genetic constraints were reinforced through cultural programming, religious indoctrination, and social systems that discouraged the development of human potential while maintaining sufficient capabilities to serve economic and military functions. Modern genetic engineering capabilities provide unprecedented opportunities for understanding and potentially reversing the genetic limitations imposed on human populations by ancient control systems. The development of CRISPR gene editing technology, advanced genetic sequencing, and synthetic biology techniques enables precise analysis and modification of human genetic material in ways that might restore suppressed capabilities or enhance existing potential. However, the same technologies also present risks of further genetic manipulation by contemporary control systems that might seek to impose additional limitations or create new forms of biological dependency. The tools of liberation and the tools of control are, in many cases, identical, and the difference lies entirely in the intentions and awareness of those who wield them. The cosmic context revealed in the Sumerian tablets positions Earth as one operational site within a larger galactic civilization that includes multiple intelligent species and advanced technological capabilities. The Anunnaki represent one faction within this broader community, with their own political conflicts, resource needs, and territorial disputes influencing their policies regarding Earth and human populations throughout ancient history. The tablets describe ongoing conflicts between different Anunnaki factions, interventions by other cosmic civilizations, and complex diplomatic relationships that affected the development of human civilization throughout ancient history. Earth, in this reading, was never simply a world. It was a territory, valuable, contested, administered from afar by beings whose own concerns and conflicts played out across distances we can barely imagine. The technological trajectory of human civilization suggests we are approaching capabilities matching or exceeding those described in the ancient tablets. Genetic engineering, space travel, artificial intelligence, and consciousness-expanding technologies. The development of these capabilities presents both opportunities for human liberation and risks of repeating the control patterns that characterized ancient civilizations. The tablets provide detailed warnings about the consequences of technological development without corresponding spiritual and ethical evolution, describing how advanced capabilities can be used for either consciousness expansion or population control, depending on the intentions and awareness of those who wield them. Contemporary reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, now acknowledged at the governmental level in multiple nations, may represent ongoing monitoring activities by cosmic civilizations maintaining interest in human development. The consistency of contact reports across cultures and time periods suggests that Earth may remain within the sphere of influence of advanced civilizations that include, perhaps, the original Anunnaki or their successors. The patterns of contemporary contact bear a striking resemblance to the patterns described in the ancient tablets. Selective, purposeful, focused on individuals with particular capabilities or awareness, and consistently oriented toward observation rather than open communication. Recent discoveries at sites including Göbekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe, and other locations in Turkey continue to reveal construction techniques, artistic sophistication, and astronomical knowledge, suggesting access to advanced engineering and scientific capabilities during periods conventionally associated with hunter-gatherer societies. These findings support the tablet accounts of knowledge transfer from advanced civilizations and challenge evolutionary models, assuming gradual technological development driven solely by environmental pressures. Each new site discovered, each new layer of ancient complexity uncovered, narrows the distance between what we were taught to believe about our past and what the evidence is quietly, persistently suggesting. The linguistic evidence preserved in ancient texts provides substantial support for literal rather than mythological interpretations of accounts describing advanced technologies, genetic engineering, and extraterrestrial contact. Computer-assisted analysis of cuneiform texts has revealed technical vocabularies, systematic terminologies, and consistent narrative structures indicating factual reporting rather than symbolic or mythological content. The precision and consistency of technical descriptions across multiple independent sources suggest preservation of actual knowledge and experience rather than imaginative storytelling or religious allegory. The resistance to alternative interpretations of human origins within academic and religious institutions reflects deeper concerns about maintaining social stability and institutional authority rather than purely scientific considerations. The implications of artificial human origins challenge fundamental assumptions about human nature, purpose, and destiny that underpin existing social, political, and economic systems. Recognition of human genetic potential and cosmic heritage might inspire demands for social transformation, technological advancement, and consciousness expansion that current power structures are unprepared to accommodate or control. The future of human development may depend on our ability to integrate ancient wisdom with modern capabilities while avoiding the mistakes that led to the collapse of previous advanced civilizations. The tablets provide detailed accounts of how technological advancement without corresponding spiritual development led to conflicts, environmental destruction, and the eventual departure of advanced civilizations from Earth. The patterns described in these ancient accounts bear striking similarities to contemporary global challenges: environmental degradation, technological risks, social inequality, and the potential for catastrophic warfare using advanced weapon systems. The synthesis of evidence from Sumerian tablets, archaeological discoveries, genetic research, and contemporary phenomena points toward a radically different understanding of human origins, capabilities, and cosmic relationships than conventional academic and religious frameworks have acknowledged. Humans appear to be hybrid beings, created through genetic engineering by advanced extraterrestrial civilizations, possessing latent capabilities that far exceed current utilization and maintaining connections to cosmic intelligences that continue to monitor and influence human development. The suppression of this knowledge through institutional gatekeeping, religious orthodoxy, and social conditioning has created artificial limitations, preventing humans from realizing their full potential while maintaining dependency relationships that serve existing power structures. The implications of this alternative understanding extend beyond academic curiosity to encompass practical questions about human development, social organization, technological advancement, and spiritual evolution. Recognition of our true origins and potential could catalyze unprecedented human advancement in consciousness, technology, and cosmic awareness, but also presents risks of social disruption, power conflicts, and the potential for both liberation and new forms of control. The ancient tablets suggest that human destiny remains unwritten, dependent on our choices regarding how to use the knowledge and capabilities we inherit from our complex origins. The path forward requires careful integration of ancient wisdom with modern capabilities, recognition of human potential without naive assumptions about automatic progress, and the development of ethical frameworks that can guide the use of advanced technologies for consciousness expansion rather than population control. The Sumerian tablets provide both inspiration and warning about the possibilities and dangers that await human civilization as we approach technological capabilities that may match those of our creators. Whether we use these capabilities to transcend our limitations and join the cosmic community as conscious participants, or whether we repeat the mistakes of previous civilizations that led to their decline, depends on the choices we make in the critical period ahead. The evidence suggests that we stand at a threshold moment where ancient prophecies, modern capabilities, and cosmic influences converge to determine the future trajectory of human consciousness and civilization. And so, dear listener, we come gently to the end of our long journey through the ancient world. Let the images and ideas of this vast story drift slowly now, like leaves settling on still water. You have traveled through the deep layers of the earth, across the tablets of forgotten centuries, through the quiet corridors of ancient laboratories and administrative halls carved from the bedrock of human memory. You have wandered the banks of the Euphrates and the Tigris in a time before cities had names, felt the weight of clay tablets in imagined hands, looked up at the same stars that ancient astronomers charted with such careful, devoted precision. It is enough for now to simply rest with all of it, to let the questions breathe and the wondering soften into something quieter and warmer. The great rivers of Mesopotamia still flow, slower now, their courses altered by centuries of irrigation and the patient reshaping of the land. Beneath the soil of Iraq, beneath the sand and sediment of 10,000 years, more tablets sleep, more records, more instructions, more accounts of things that happened in a time so distant that we have barely begun to find the language for it. They are patient, those clay tablets. They have waited this long. They can wait a little longer. Let your body grow heavy and warm. Let your breath slow and deepen. The ancient world will be here when you wake, patient as ever, waiting in the silence between words. The questions it carries are the oldest questions of all. Who made us, and why, and what we might yet become? And they have no urgency tonight. Tonight, they are simply part of the quiet, part of the darkness, part of the gentle drift towards sleep. Good night, and sleep well.